That's a good start. But so we're going to get to see it firsthand today. Gary, thank you for everything you do. And with that, please.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Make sure the microphone is positioned. Well, thank you for coming today. As Rick said, I'm Gary Frank. I've been a club member here for 14 years at least. It's been a while. Yeah, that the video that's on our website was our first attempt at a remote. It was in 2020. We still weren't having meetings, didn't have access to a bandsaw, so we did it from my shop on a cell phone. There was like, was it a cell phone? We did have the camera there. Okay, but I know the audio isn't the best, so hopefully it'll be a little better this time. Here are 3 examples, and I've got more examples I'm going to show some pictures of later on. But number 1, I have to thank John Beaver. He is the person who invented or came up with this process. Matter of fact, he demonstrated for our club a few years ago. And he's got a different process. I tried to simplify it so we didn't have to make a fancy jig like he has. But if you go over to his website, he does some really spectacular stuff. And as a matter of fact, I know Wayne Hunt has done some of them where the waves are proud of the bowl. So it looks like it's a 3-dimensional ring that waves around the bowl. It's quite spectacular. And he's got some really good videos over there. So with that, we'll go and get started. Got my notes so that I don't forget something. But I start with just a block of wood, preferably square. The square, the better. Now, in this case, this surface is rough, but it's going to be turned away. But the other surface is fairly flat, and I've already glued a sacrificial tenon on it that just makes things a little easier. So basically, what we're going to be doing is turning, I don't think you can see it, but we're going to be cutting a wave, on this surface. So the first thing I want to do, and also to make sure, want the end grains this way. It just makes the turning a little easier. The first thing I do is I mark a center line. Mark a center line on this side of the block. And I decided not to do any of this beforehand. So that would be 2.5 and 1/8. And I probably should have done this on second thought before I put the tenon on. And this will be used later when we mount the block for cutting at the lathe. And I normally, tell me if I get off center from the camera, please. Transfer that across the top. And then get a center across here. Or roughly a center, it just doesn't have to be super exact. 1.25. So that's a 1, 2, that's 3.5, so it's 1.5. So right around here. And then bisect this one again. Half from 3/8. Again, these two measurements don't have to be fairly exact. It's just a reference point to set up where we're going to mark or how we're going to cut on the bandsaw. So the first thing we're going to do is once we get this marked up, I'll be moving over to the bandsaw. Now there is one mistake that Ray pointed out to me on step 5. It says mark half up from line 5. That should be line 4. So if you've got, you can correct that. Now, the other thing that I do, just to get an idea of what my radius is, I wish I had a smaller one, but I don't. Between these two lines that I drew, I want to take and set up a circle. What circle is going to touch roughly the two lines? And so it's a little over 12 inches. So I want to have a radius over there of 6 inches. So I'm going to just write that down. So 6 strong. And that'll give me my diameter of the cut. Now, we're going to be gluing this back together after we cut it. And if you ever tried to glue something that's on a curve, it's a bear because it wants to slide. So take care of that. Drill 2 holes in the top. And it doesn't really make a difference because eventually that'll be turned out. Okay, got to find my dowels. So I've just cut, 2 dowels that will, go down deep enough so that it'll hold it all together. So when you clamp it, it doesn't start sliding around. Okay. Yeah, just test these to make sure, because sometimes I had to sand these down because I knew they wouldn't slide in the first time. And the other thing is, I also put a little bit of a point so that it'll drive through the veneer later on. Okay. Now, the other thing that's very important is we're going to be cutting right through here. This can, especially if it's perfectly square, you can forget, was it this way or that way? So I just put a couple witness marks across so that it makes it very easy to, let's try to make it idiot proof, which I definitely need. And I'll show you an example of why. First one I did was I was worried, concerned about writing everything down so I could get the steps down. And all of a sudden I realized this was supposed to have been this way, not this way. I might put it together and turn it just for the heck of it, because I think it was Bob and I were talking last night when we were setting up. It'd be interesting to take and put a wave instead of around the bowl this way, put it around the bowl this way. So, hey. Sorry? Yeah, I'll do it both directions. Yeah, that's a possibility. So I'll bring that back later on as an oops. Okay, cut the dowels, got that. Okay, now I'm going to go over to, well, I'll do one more thing here and then I'll move over to the lathe or to the bandsaw. I'm going to be mounting this to just a piece so it slides nice and easy. And what I've done, you can see it a little bit over here, I've marked the center line down the center of it. And you can see I've used this several times to cut waves in the bowl. Okay. Now, of course, I've also got a couple perpendicular lines across here. And the one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take and set up. Oh, here we go. I'm going to go down a little 6+ inches. As a matter of fact, I think I'll be able to use one that's already there. We'll find out as we get closer. Okay. Now, hopefully that one is set up. Oh, yes. And by the way, the walnut bowl, that was a white veneer. It turned yellow with sanding from the walnut. Okay. Some of the tape. Yeah. Anybody see the? Oh, there it is. I'm going to take and tape this up. With the wind blowing through here. I wouldn't be able to keep this in position. Okay, because I'm going to talk a little bit about the circle cutter. This is one that Zim and I made up so for this lathe. Okay. This is my circle cutter that I have at home. And if people want to look at it, it was one that we made in Ed Jones's shop, one that he got some information on. And then in typical Ed Jones fashion, upgraded it. So it's very versatile. So after we get done, if you want to come and talk about it, just let me know after the meeting. So basically, this is just a sled, and it's got a piece in here, which we'll use to pivot and cut the arc. So I'm going to start by setting it up with this one. And I haven't come up with a mathematical way of figuring all this out, but need to turn on my glue gun so it's ready. Because the main thing, there's that center line going through here, and you want that to be right at the front of the blade. This is a 3/8 brand new blade, and 3/8 or ½ inch should be working. Initially, this one had a 1/4 inch, because this is the bandsaw for YEI, and 1/4 inch going through that big block just literally wouldn't cut it. So we're going to tack this down. And now I'm using the center line that I drew on this face, and just lining that up to the center line on the pivot arm, and have it perpendicular. And if this is not warm enough, I guess I'm gonna have to talk for a couple more minutes. Yeah, I should have put a note on there, turn on glue gun. I might be able to. Let me try. And the question was, could I make the lines darker? If I'd have been thinking, I would have brought a felt pen.
Just another addition to that. I want to thank Bob Zimmerman. This is YEI's bandsaw. Bob got the guides all fixed up on this. He got the new blade, got it installed, and also polished the top. So big thanks to Bob for taking care of that for us.
Okay. By the way, those of you who use a glue gun, hot glue, this is I think Mark brought this to one of the one demo we had over at Dean's. You can buy this and it'll go on any standard Makita, Arobi, DeWalt. You can buy it, of course, Amazon, and it sure makes it easy using it. You don't have to have it plugged into the wall. Of course, it doesn't heat. There we go. quite as fast. Yeah, whoops. It's warm. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is just pack this. Just going to temporarily tack that so that it doesn't move while I start playing with it. Okay. Get that out of the way so I don't knock it down. Now I'm going to take and move the sled away. And whoop. Okay, it wasn't. Gotta let that set for a minute. Because the one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take and rotate this. And I'm going to slide it back in. And line it up with the center. The one line I ran across the top of it, right through the center. And just where it would enter. And then move it out. Move this back perfectly perpendicular and then see where it hits. I'll take good luck any day. Perfect. Yeah, we're in trouble. So now it's going to start on this line. It's going to enter the wood and hopefully exit the wood on that line and then go that far to the top. And then, of course, when you're turning it, you can bring these in a little bit so you get to that magic 1/3. So you keep the wave on the top third of the bowl. Okay, now I'm going to take and tap this down, pack it, glue it down completely. I'm also going to let that set for a couple of minutes. Okay, we'll go back over here. And the reason I'm letting that set, when I cut this one, I don't know if you can see on the top, if you go to the top camera. When I was cutting this, it came unglued. And therefore, it's got a defect in it. I think I might be able to fix that by literally, moving it apart. And I'll talk about it later and maybe put some resin in it. But you want to make sure, because there's a lot of torque. You're cutting a big hunk, in this case, maple. So it's not the softest wood in the world. And so you want to make sure that is really glued to that pivot arm. Otherwise, it's going to move. And then you get a whoops. Or as they say, a design opportunity. While we're letting that dry or really cool down, let's go to the pictures if we could, Ken. Yeah, no problem. I don't have a problem with talking. Yeah. Once that, thank you. I will definitely do that. Yeah. Yeah, the question was if I could take and rotate this so people can see the whole setup. I'll do that after I'm sure the hot glue is cooled. Otherwise, it's back to square one. Now, I tried to develop a mathematical way of figuring out where to go in and go out, and I couldn't, but I'm very fortunate. I started my career as on a drafting board, so I can look at things and figure out how to do it. Sometimes it's trial and error. So a lot of times that's where I only temporarily pack it down just to see if I've got to go move something. Because sometimes you do, but that one came out perfect. Okay. Oh. Get out of the way, Gary. Okay. Yeah, let's do the pic. No, Jerry's holding that. Let's go back to that if you can. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, zoom out if you can, or back up. Okay, a little further.
Go back where it was.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see the pivot here. And this is going to just go like this around on the bandsaw once I get this relined back up after moving it, but that's easy to do. So the action is going to be like this through the bandsaw blade. And you adjust the in and out here, and I'll be clamping this down so it doesn't move. Another thing that I've done with the circle cutter, I took a biscuit from a biscuit joiner and I put a cut in the end where the bandsaw goes in just to hold it flat. Because my original one started warping just a little bit. So does that help, Kathy? Okay, and also you can see the lines, the two lines here at the top that I'm going to cut hopefully cut that through there. Okay, Ken, if you could go back to the pictures. Okay, so this is just some of the different ways of doing the waves. You can see in this one, it was a compound wave. I cut the wave in, and when I was turning it, I ended up with a design opportunity. I got a catch. So I really couldn't shorten the bowl, so I just carved, two little coves into the rim. Okay, next one, Ken, please. Now this one, you cut it once, you glue it together, you use the same setup, preferably leave the pivot arm attached, and then just move it a ½ inch. Do another cut, glue it together. Okay, Ken, next one. And that's just another example with a little different piece of wood. And normally I always try to get a contrasting wave. Holly for the dark woods, black veneer for the light woods. Next one, Ken. Well, here's one. I'll let you guys try to figure out how I did that one. So basically you want two waves counter to each other. and you basically, you flip it. But you gotta make sure you get the top and bottom close to being the same. So it's a little trickier, but doable. Now, also, if you notice, these are fairly wide, the waves. It's actually 2 pieces of veneer. So you get something a little thicker. Okay, next one, Ken. Now on this one, you put the block, you cut a wave, glue it together, rotate it 90 degrees. Again, same setup, so that you get the sine waves to be perfectly symmetrical. Next one, Ken. Okay, you have any idea how I did this one? As a matter of fact, I showed this one to John Beaver, and he said, I've thought about doing that, but I've never done it. He said, okay, he said, now you've forced me, I got to go do it. So basically, you take the block, and before I start doing any cutting, I take the block and I cut 2 45-degree angles, the 2 corners off, so that I can cut it, glue it together, rotate it 45 degrees, cut it, glue it together, rotate it another 45. Now, it took me quite a while to sell this one. And to be quite honest, I don't like it. And the reason I don't like it is it's a busy design on a busy piece of wood. But yet, one of the times at the November sale, we weren't even open yet. I had it in sales for at least 3 years, and it went before we opened the doors. So, just takes the right person. But that's my own personal critique of this. If you're going to do the waves, don't get a super figured piece of wood, because I think it detracts from the wood. Let the wood stand by itself. Use, maybe a curl, but not a highly figured piece of ambrosia maple. Next one, Ken. Okay, now this one, very simple. You take a piece of maple, glue it down, take another piece of, in this case, walnut, glue it down to the top, or in this case, double-sided sticky tape, double-sided tape. So you've got perfectly aligned all the surfaces, and then cut it through both of them at the same time. And then swap. Next one. And there's the mate. So you can, think outside the box. There's all kinds of possibilities. Just like when Zim and I last night, when he made the comment about putting the waves the other direction, 90 degrees. Okay, I'd never thought about that. I'll have to try it. Next one, Ken. That's the one that's going around. This one I just finished. I haven't been able to take a good picture of it yet, but I took that one outside because I wanted the resin so you could see the mica powder in it. Now this one, I got the idea when we had that demonstrator a year or so ago, and he was doing some turning at a 45. He had it, and he would cut across, just a straight cut, pull it apart, fill it full of veneer, and then turn the bowl. And that's when I got thinking, well, gee, I can do that with a wave. And I want to definitely thank Jay, because we brainstormed this one and got it. And basically, I just cut it like I'm going to do the next one, moved it an inch apart, and then built a grain cram. I'm sorry? Yeah, form. Yeah. a mold around it. And a good use of old election posters, that plastic makes really good molds. Yeah, you just use hot glue. You use a lot of hot glue, but so I just made that. Took it over to Jay's so we could use his pressure pot. Unfortunately, my mold leaked the first time, but it sealed itself. Jay poured a little more in it the next day, and then turned the bowl like normal. And of course, with the acrylic, you get the acrylic sticking to everything. It's a good way to fill your face mask with stuff. But I think it really came out. I'm very pleased with the piece. One last one, I think. Okay. Now, some of you know how I did this one. This was one of those design opportunities. It was supposed to be two parallel waves. I cut the first one, glued it back together, cut the other one, and the sled moved. And it actually, the waves crossed each other on the one end. So I just made it a little smaller so that they would touch on the one end. I don't know if I'll ever be able to repeat that one. It was just one of those happy accidents. And I think that's it, Ken, right? Okay. This should be done now. We're ready. Yeah. Okay, so now I gotta take and, yeah, that's good and dry, or good and cool. I gotta slide this in and let align the bottom one. Tactical problem. Okay. It's a demo. It never go. We should have made this a little bigger. Okay, so I need to get this out of the way. I need to make this a little smaller. A little shorter. Thank you. Yeah, I own, as we talked earlier, one of the Peak, and I use that all the time in the shop, especially after it probably saved my life. Okay, Bob. Yeah. No, it's not plugged in. I'm not sure how it got unplugged because we checked it out just before we started. Okay. Things always work better when they're plugged in. No. Okay. Okay, as you notice, I clamped this down so it doesn't move. Now I'm going to take and move this out of the way. Get that set just before it'll start cutting. Now, I'm gonna stand in front of this a little bit just so I can get it started. This is not gonna work. Right. Oh, now the other thing I do is I clamp this. So it doesn't slide, so I don't get those happy accidents. It moved a little bit, not quite centered as well as I'd like it. And now get this glue off as soon as I can. Because the longer it sets, the harder it is to come off. Okay. Okay, now time for the veneer. I've got two pieces, and the veneer will normally have a normal shape that it wants to do. So it works well just to don't fight it. Now I've got this blue tape on it just to keep it from splitting. And when I start gluing, that will be taken off. Because otherwise this stuff tends to split with the grain when you start trying to play with it. So basically you're ready to start putting it together. Now, I've decided not to try to glue it up here because it's such a mess. But I have this nice little glue applicator, which really works out when you're trying to put it over a large surface, because you got to put glue on this surface, you got to put glue on this surface, you got to put glue on, at least I put glue on at least one side of this and then one side of this. So it's a lot of glue to do before the glue starts setting up. So as I said, I'm not going to bother trying to do that, but this applicator really works. I've had it for years. Sorry? Rock clear? Yeah, I think it is. It came with a set of several different applicators, including one for the biscuits. So basically you put that in there, put this all together. And now this is where as a matter of fact, I didn't bring it, but I've got a scratch awl that I'll get this lined up, and I'll take and force the scratch awl through the veneer just to start a hole, and then with a round, with a point on it, literally just put it in here, take a hammer, start whacking it in. Yes. Well, the hole is, it's just the veneer, so it easily punches through. The question was, why didn't I just drill through it? I don't like putting the drill through there because it's going to get all glued up. And the veneer is soft enough that take the scratch awl, hit it a little bit, it'll punch a hole right through the veneer. And then you can drive this through it, no problem. You put this on here, drive it through. And then I put 4 clamps on it, one in each corner. And with these 2 dowels, it's not going to slide on the surface anymore, and let it set up overnight. Definitely don't turn quickly. They say it sets in 2 hours, but I still feel, you're going to put this on the lathe, and you don't want to do it like I did and punch a hole in the ceiling. And that basically is that part of the demo. So, and as you can see, you've got and I've got this off a little bit. I forgot to move the sled all the way in and clamp it. So it didn't quite do it quite perfectly. But again, to be quite honest, once you get it on the bowl and you start turning it, you really can't see that. And now, oh yeah, and also with this, as soon as you get it clamped up, or even before you get it clamped up, take this off and put it in a container full of water. Otherwise, it's a bear to get off. Yeah, I just use the regular old Type Bond because, you know, if you had the Type Bond 3, you don't really need that extra holding power because hopefully nobody's going to put water in it. If they do, they probably got bigger problems than dissolving the glue. Sorry? Yeah, yeah, it's plenty strong. I mean, yeah, I've never had a failure of all the bowls I've turned, so.
Parallel lines, would you make your second cut right after by moving it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so basically, like right now, this one is clamped where it was. Oh, yes, thank you. The question was to do the parallel lines. You know, would you just move this? Yes. You would have to take, and that's why when I would glue it together, I would leave this piece on the block. This way I know I get the same curve, the same radius. And so you just put this on. Once it's all glued together, just take and move this out. However, I normally did it a 1/2 inch. Reclamp it, cut it, and then just repeat the process. And otherwise, if you're going to do the intersecting ones, make sure you keep this line so you know what the pivot radius was, and then just rotate the block 90 degrees, cut it again. So I think you've got to do a little turning. So I'm just going to, I've already got a block that's, already cut and glued back together. And right, those of you who have not seen these easy wood chucks, I forgot to bring the one key with me, but changing out these jaws, you can change out all 4 jaws in literally 15 seconds. It's really works out nice if you have to change jaws. And you can get a variety of, from the pin jaws to much larger jaws to much smaller jaws. So it's they're not cheap. They're more expensive than a lot of the other ones, but I really, really like it. As a matter of fact, I know Jerry's got one, and there's several people have got them. We saw them the first time we were up at Provo when they had the symposiums up there. And on their Super Wednesday, the Easy Wood guy was there demoing these. Craft Supply didn't even have it in their catalog yet. Whoops. We need the toolbox. Is that in the shed? Just realized, forgot to get the rest. So basically, you can, remove the camera, no. The overhead camera. Move it.
Yeah.
Towards me. More. Okay, that works. Perfect. Yeah, and you can see the wave starting to develop. And of course, the thing that especially woodworkers, when they see these at the sale, they think it's just a veneer on the outside, an inlay. And then they look inside and it's, and of course, how'd you do that? You know, and just need the, yeah, this is good enough. Thank you, Bob.
I guess souvenir you can mold into that part.
Whatever, the question was, what's the thickest veneer? Anything that'll bend.
Couple of the guys that I watch, they actually get them wet and bend them wet.
Yeah, Bob was just saying that some of the videos he's watched, they'll soak the wood, get it wet, and then glue it all up and then use put it basically in a press and force it together. And so you're molding the wood. So I double veneer is it's as thick as I've had. Yeah. What Phil Brown was saying, you could, as long as you get the same radius, you could go back to the bandsaw, cut a contrasting piece of wood, however thick you want it, and then glue it together. But you got to have the same radius. But if you can do that, I mean, again, the design possibilities are immense. As I said, some of the things I've done, John Beaver mentioned to me that he had never even done them, and was glad to see that somebody had tried it. Yeah, I'm going to say probably the Type Bond 3. Well, that's waterproof. Yeah, I'm not sure, but you'd probably have to take in. No, okay, the way I would do it I'd put it between the wood, mold it, let it dry, then take it apart, and once the wood's dried, then glue it together. But yeah, good point. You couldn't you couldn't glue the wood together if the insert's wet. So basically, or if you could steam it, if you had a steamer. Okay, I'm just going to take in turn just a little bit of this, just so you get the idea of and also, I forgot to mention paper cutter. Best way to cut the veneer. It cuts it clean, and if you've got the stop, you can cut them the same size every time. So paper cutter really helps. And then you got a paper cutter so your wife can use it to do things also. Okay. By the way, are there any other questions to this point? And thanks for all the questions that came up during it, because I think it definitely helped the understanding. Okay. Now get safe. Oh. Okay. So I don't have anything hanging out. It'll also keep the mic cord away from the turn-on. Okay. Oh. Let me take it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Ken just said, don't bury the microphone. Nobody will hear me. Jerry just said, that's good. Yeah, let's put it out on the outside. There we go. Okay, yeah, I can still hear myself. So thank you, Ken. Okay. I know one thing, this lathe is set up for somebody a lot taller than me. By the way, the RPM reading doesn't work. It says it's going at 0. Okay, I'm just gonna take and square round this a bit. And if you notice, I'm doing my best to stay outside of the zone. Being hit in the side of the head once was too much. Okay, that's nice and round. I'm just gonna take and roll over this one end so you can start seeing the you get a real good feeling for too much. But you can get an idea of what that wave is gonna look like in the finished bowl. And so yeah, just I would turn the outside and then start hollowing it. And any questions? I got one more thing. I'm gonna have my own little safety minute. Any other questions? Okay. We don't have our light here, but all of us have probably like some of us have a magnetic light. It's got the arm going out. You can do it. Well, I came up with an idea, and it was basically initially for the ultraviolet curing epoxy, because you've got to leave it on for about a minute. And especially if you put in colorant or mica powders, it might take, 2 minutes. Well, and you're just sitting there holding this, and you shouldn't be looking anywhere near a ultraviolet light anyway. So I went and got a test tube clamp, but you can use it also just for a regular flashlight. Clamp this to your light. This rotates 108 or 360 degrees, and you can take and move it along anywhere to especially get inside deeper into the bowls. So Amazon, of course. Where else? And yes, I use it quite a bit. It really helps getting another light onto your turning. As I know somebody once said, you can't have too much light when you're turning. So, well, unless there's any other questions, that's pretty much everything I have for the demo today. Thank you all. And if you want to look at my either one of these circle cutting jigs, because they are also really good for taking and putting a bowl blank on it and turning it round. Instead of having to turn off all the corners or try to cut them off on a 45 or whatever, the circle cutter, I use it quite often in my shop. So thank you.
Thank you, Gary. We really appreciate it.